Born in Plansk, Poland 1886, David Ben-Gurion would go down in history as one of the most important and influential figures in Jewish history. Originally being named David Grun, his story begins in the 16th of October, 1886 to his mother, Shindel Brotteman Grun, who later died of sepsis, and his father Avigdor Grun, who later died of natural causes. He was their sixth child. There were 11. Ben-Gurion grew up in a very Zionist household. Furthermore, his house would become a center for the supporters of the Zionist cause. David Ben-Gurion studied Talmud Torah, where he had sacred studies, as well as studying Hebrew as an everyday language, and at the age of 14, he and several other like-minded boys formed the Zionist association called Ezra, whose aim was to strengthen the status of the Hebrew language and teach it to the town's youth. And on September 9, 1906, David Ben-Gurion immigrated to the land of Israel, Palestine, under the Ottoman Empire. He landed in the port of Jaffa, and on that same evening already made his way with some of his friends to Petah Tikva. Later, he wandered between the different rural Jewish settlements of pre-state Israel, and for a time, he worked at wineries in Rishon LeZion and Kfar Saba. At the same time, David became a member of the temporary committee that led the Poly Zion Party, together with Israel Shohat, and a year after immigration, Ben-Gurion moved to Sayera in the Galilee. Here in Sayera, I found the environment of the homeland that I had missed so much, he said. In 1910, with Yitzhak Ben-Zvi and Rachel Yonate, David moved to Jerusalem, and they became the editors of the newspaper Hadorth, which means unity. As a result, David adopted the surname Ben-Gurion. Ben-Gurion and Yitzhak Ben-Zvi were accepted to study law at Kushta University in Istanbul, Turkey. However, when World War I started, they were expelled due to Zionist activity and subservience to Russia. They were expelled to Alexandria, Egypt, and in the same year of the expulsion, they went to New York, where they organized the Helots, the pioneer movement, and in December 1917, he married Paula Munwise. They had 3 children, and in 1918, he and Yitzhak Ben-Zvi organized a volunteer movement for the Hebrew battalions of the British Army. He himself was one of the volunteers, and with the British occupation of the land of Israel, Palestine, David Ben-Gurion returned to it, where he began his involvement in the labor movement, alongside Beryl Katznelson, and Ben-Gurion was elected to the Secretariat of the Executive Committee of the Workers' Union in the land, and served as the General Secretary of the Israel Workers' Union until 1935. The working public that grows and grows in Israel from the immigration sees itself not only as the beginning of a healthy and normal working class, the likes of which has not been given to the Jewish people in the diaspora, but also as the nucleus and a portrait of the future of a new Hebrew people. And in that same year, he was elected as the chairman of the Jewish Agency, becoming an official leader of the Zionist movement in the world, and with the publication of the White Paper in 1939, which restricted Jewish immigration and settlement in British Mandate Palestine. Ben-Gurion determined the lines of the struggle by increasing immigration and establishing settlement points, even in places prohibited by the British government. During World War II, Ben-Gurion and Dr. Chaim Weizmann initiated the Biltmore Conference. In New York 1942, the first General Conference of the American Zionists, the Biltmore Plan was approved, which called for, among other things, the establishment of a Jewish military force and a just solution to the problem of the Jewish people's statelessness. And in 1945, he visited the displaced persons camps established on German soil following World War II, where Jews who had managed to survive were settled. I saw in Bergen-Belsen the graves of the thousands who were murdered every day by the Nazis, and I saw the few remains that had been saved in a miraculous way, and in their hearts the love for the homeland was strong. Ben-Gurion was responsible for national security in the management of the Jewish Agency, and for several months he held a seminar for the Jewish National Fund, where he prepared the groundwork for the creation of an army for the Jewish state. And then in the 14th of May 1948,
זוהי זכותו הטבעית של העם היהודי להיות ככל עם ועם עומד ברשות עצמו במדינתו הריבונית, אשר תפתח לרווחה את שערי המולדת לכל יהודי ותעניק לעם היהודי מעמד של אומה שוות זכויות בתוך העמים. לפיכך נתכנסנו אנו חברי מועצת העם, נציגי היישוב העברי והתנועה הציונית, ביום סיום המנדט הבריטי על ארץ ישראל, מתוקף זכותנו הטבעית וההיסטורית ועל יסוד החלטת עצרת האומות המאוחדות, אנו מכריזים בזאת על הקמת מדינה יהודית בארץ ישראל, היא מדינת ישראל.
The following day, the Israeli War of Independence began, and upon the establishment of the State of Israel, David Ben-Gurion became its interim Prime Minister, as well as the Defense Minister. And on December 5, 1949, shortly before the debate at the UN Assembly on the internationalization of Jerusalem, he spoke in the Knesset, Israeli parliament, and declared that Jerusalem is the eternal capital of the State of Israel, and that Jerusalem is its heart. He also brought up the idea of reparations for the Holocaust. However, there were protests due to the fact people felt that it quantified the suffering of all that were involved. And in December 1953, he resigned from the government and moved to the kibbutz called Sde in the Negev desert in southern Israel, as he felt that it was important to set a personal example for the youth. However, in February 1955, he returned to his position as Defense Minister, and in November of that same year was elected Defense Minister and Prime Minister, and in 1956 announced the launch of Operation Kadesh with Great Britain and France. However, he cancelled the operation due to pressure from both countries, and finally, at age 77, resigned as Prime Minister. And in 1968, his wife died due to a stroke, and in 1971, at the age of 85, resigned from the Knesset and quit politics altogether. And finally, on December 1, 1973, he passed away at 87 years old. Now in conclusion, what can be said about such a man? A man of humble origins who always opted for a minimal life, yet a visionary, a man who had made the 2,000 years longing of the Jewish people for their homeland not just a dream, but a reality, a man whose memory and achievements will live on forever.